Liddell is the Upper Hunter's oldest operating power plant, but at 23 years of age, time and technology has caught up with it. In what's described as the world's largest retrofit, costing $70 million, Liddell now has a fabric filter bag system which traps emissions from the station's 4 500-megawatt generating units. Pacific Power's Hunter Assistant General Manager Jim Hennis says the upgrade brings new environmental standards for the station.
What we can now do is operate at full load with no visible emissions coming from the stacks at all. It's an extremely effective way of removing dust from the power station boiler production.
The filter bags work similar to a vacuum cleaner, with dust caught on the outside of the 8-metre-long fabric tubes. Blasts of air at regular intervals clear the bags, with a flash being deposited in a hopper for removal. The upgrade will ensure the long-term viability of the power station.
It actually equips it as a modern station to go into the 21st century. Liddell really is now well placed to be a major supplier into the New South Wales system for the next 20 or 30 years.
New technology is also part of the improvements about to be commissioned at Liddell, with old monitoring equipment making way for improved computerised systems.
For police at the scene, it was a familiar pattern. Slippery conditions led to the driver of this small sedan losing control and clipping the bank. The car rolled, spinning down the road on its roof. The occupants, a Queensland couple and their 3.5-year-old daughter, were injured, but not as seriously as the wreckage of the car would suggest. The little girl, who was in the rear of the car in a child restraint, suffered a gash to the head. Her parents both suffered back injuries. All were airlifted to hospital in Newcastle by the Westpac rescue helicopter. As the wreckage was cleared and the highway reopened to traffic, police had this advice.
What people have got to realise, with the small amount of rain we've had, the roadway becomes very slippery. And what they've got to do is adjust their driving to suit those conditions and take notice to the advisory signs to the corners.
Players from Newcastle, Illawarra and the Central Coast make up the crack representative team. Today they took on Denver long ball at Belmont Oval, south of Newcastle, in preparation for the Australian Championships next month.
This is probably the strongest team we've ever taken away. We really expect to do well there. It goes in a round robin series with 8 teams, and we're the only countryside there. The rest of them are full states. And if we can make the top 4, we then get to play in the major championships, and we expect to do that this year.
New South Wales Country won both games in a double-header against Arapahoe County yesterday, and tomorrow take on California at Gosford. The American under-16 teams are down under for a tournament in Queensland next month. So far, the local team has been able to embarrass its more highly fancied overseas counterparts with a depth of talent never seen before in a New South Wales Country squad.
Sam Grant, another outfielder with a very good bat, hits the ball a long way. And Peter Long from Coffs Harbour, who's coming along, a first-year player, but there's a lot of keen eyes on him.
Up to 7 youngsters from the New South Wales Country team are expected to be chosen for the national team following the Australian Championships in Canberra. They will go on to play in the World Championships in America. Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News.
For many motorists, their experience with the highway patrol is usually being pulled over for exceeding the speed limit. However, at the superstation on the freeway at Wyong, motorists were experiencing a new style of public relations from the Central Coast officers. The program, launched by North Region Commander Assistant Commissioner Ray Donaldson, is the idea of the North Police Region's Metropolitan Customer Council. It aims to encourage closer community contact and road safety.
At the same time, we're going to take advantage of that and have our police officers in there talking to the public with a view to generally breaking down barriers and making the community and the police service work a little bit closer together.
Gosford and Wyong Highway Patrol officers will give advice on local and intrastate road conditions, roadworks and information for road use. Motorists on the receiving end of a friendly welcome were impressed. Police used the launch to impress on motorists the importance of abiding by road rules, with safe driving the key element to survival on the roads.
Yes, the tragic fact of the matter is that most accidents are avoidable. 37% of serious and fatal accidents relate to speed. There's another 23% involving liquor, 16% involving lack of or fatigue, and 19% simply due to a failure to wear restraints and helmets.
If the Central Coast trial helps in the campaign to keep the state's road toll at the lowest level since the 1950s, it's expected to be extended statewide next year.
Late this afternoon, a vote was taken to elect a new chairman to oversee the running of the club. The decision was made behind closed doors, Terry Lawler getting the nod, replacing Michael Hill, who has moved onto a Knights Advisory Committee. Lawler, a local businessman, is looking forward to the job, working to pull the Knights out of a $2 million debt.
I'm extremely confident that as the year progresses we'll be able to show that we're not only a successful club from an internal point of view but also successful financially.
Meanwhile, the main item at last night's general meeting was to elect the board, but before the votes were cast, another vote was taken on life membership for former marketing manager Lee Morn. Morn was instrumental in setting the club up.
I believe that the Lord Mayor should give Lee Morn the keys to the City of Newcastle. I think the smallest thing we can do is give him life membership. I commend the motion to you.
The motion was accepted. Morn, who has moved to the Gold Coast, joins Sam Stewart as the only two life members. Voting on the board went as predicted, with Kevin Lynch, Phil Crockett, Terry Lawler, Graham Simpson and John Duncan winning the 5 seats. The first woman to run, Denise Audette, missed out.
It doesn't look like it, but these innocuous cardboard cartons and boxes contain the ingredients that will light up the skies over Newcastle Harbour this evening. Sydney-based company Howard & Sons says the night sky will be turned into a rainbow of colour.
The chrysanthemum will look like a chrysanthemum flower, and you'll get a willow type which will virtually drop out of the shell.
The pontoon will be towed to the harbour centre in front of Queen's Wharf, the display lasting about 15 minutes. Late today, organisers announced an amendment to the start time. Due to shipping movements on the harbour, the show won't begin until 10:30. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Thousands of people gathered along the foreshore, with several bands entertaining the crowd at Queen's Wharf. Most people had come to watch the fireworks display. Unlike Sydney's, which went to plan, Novocastrians had to wait. The display, scheduled for 9 o'clock, was delayed until after 11 because of shipping movements on the harbour. As 1993 drew to a close, the countdown began. On the other side of town, the celebrations continued at the Beaches Hotel. Daylight revealed broken glass and stale beer, all that remained of 1994's first party. Those who didn't overindulge had a bit more energy to face the new year.
Didn't feel like going out, so we just had a few drinks at home. Went to bed early.
As for those New Year resolutions...
I never make any New Year's resolutions. I don't make them.
Why not?
Because I break them straight away.
Did you make any New Year's resolutions?
Just to have a really good New Year.
Jane Anderson, NBN News. Karen Bromwich cuddled her daughter Shannon Lee, the hunter's first baby to arrive in 1994. 28-year-old Karen was admitted to hospital 15 minutes before the clock struck 12. Shannon arrived just 2 hours later.
I thought I was pretty lucky, and I thought being 2 o'clock in the morning, I thought somebody would have had one before then, but apparently not.
In an amazing coincidence, Karen and husband Craig's eldest daughter Shani was the first baby born on Australia Day in 1992.
I haven't had a baby on a normal day yet.
Even so, the couple is trying for a hat trick, hoping their next child will be the firstborn on Christmas Day. Prison warders called the snap strike at 7 o'clock this morning, leaving the job of guarding Maitland Jail's maximum security prisoners to management. Police have been called in to man the perimeter of the jail. It's understood the lack of staff has meant that prisoners have had to be locked in their cells. They've only been allowed out for 2 hours instead of the usual 8.
Well, certainly we don't like to see inmates locked up, especially in weather like this. And on the day that's involved, New Year's Day, festive time of the year, but prisoners are unfortunately a byproduct in this dispute. That's an unfortunate.
The Prison Warders Union says the strike is over the lack of staff employed to man a new area for difficult prisoners.
They've opened a new section of the jail, but they're providing the adequate staff for that section.
A meeting will be held tomorrow morning in an attempt to resolve the matter. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Friday night's fireworks show was scheduled to start at 9 o'clock, but was delayed for an hour and a half because a ship was late entering the harbour. When the display did eventually start, it was after 11:15, leaving thousands of families waiting for more than 2 hours. Deputy Lord Mayor Frank Rigby today described the New Year's Eve display as a schmozzle and an embarrassment to the city.
It was a real non-event. The fireworks were that far away that very few people seen them when they did come on.
The brewery paid the $6,000 bill for the fireworks, but Councillor Rigby says many of the 40,000 crowd were let down.
We had a lot of people in there, a lot of young people, a lot of mums and dads all come in there to see the fireworks, and they all went away very, very disappointed.
Councillor Rigby is meeting with management of the brewery, the MSB and the tugboat operator to work out why it was a failure, but compared with the extravaganza staged in Sydney.
Next year that it'll be run by the council. I don't care if the Queen Mary's coming in, it'll be on at the time that it's given and it won't be changed.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
The British Lions came here ready to roar but have lost to the Aussie riders in the first two of the 5 tests raced at Sydney and Brisbane.
Racing against Australia in their own backyard is not easy. We seem to be up against it as soon as we drive in the stadium. We're racing the team, we're racing the officials. We're certainly racing 90% of the crowd, or there is some terrific poms that give us a lot of backing out there. And of course the Aussies don't want to be beating it because they are at home.
Tomorrow night's meet at the Newcastle Motordrome will be crunch time for the Britons, who are racing a side of young guns fleeing the northern winter. So far, the big difference has been the size of the tracks. They're a lot bigger in Australia compared with the tight circuits in the UK. But Tomago may prove an even playing field, suiting the Britons. Newcastle Speedway rider Stephen Davies will join the Australian frontline team. Another feature will be an international sidecar racing program with current Aussie champs and touring Kiwis.
Jensen is keen to settle in and get a head start on training. Since his arrival at the weekend, he's been busy finding a place to live, as well as the usual lifting weights and shooting baskets.
Get to find my way around town is the next biggest thing, and also to start training. I'm a little bit unfit after the Christmas pudding that I had over Christmas. So.
The 22-year-old guard enjoyed a successful season last year with the Townsville Suns, the highlight being named One-on-One Basketball Magazine's Rookie of the Year. However, he is determined to go even further this season with the Falcons.
I'd really like to have a good year, and as far as the team goes, I think we could definitely make it to the playoffs. We want to go one step better than last year, which was 5th, so we're looking forward to a good year.
General Manager Paul Tynan says the reshuffle has meant the team has adopted a more youthful image, which will work to the Falcons' advantage.
We think we've got a much better balance than we've had in previous years, as good as we've been. We ran 5th last year. We're committed to improving on that 5th, and certainly the team we've put together, we're confident can do that.
Port Stephens firefighters were ready for the firestorm early this afternoon. Strong westerly winds whipped up the fire, sending flames 10 metres into the air and left the volunteers with little choice but to retreat. Burning since lunchtime Monday, it's already consumed hundreds of hectares south of Madawi, but it could be several more days before it's extinguished.
Under these conditions, we're talking 1 to 2 days. So I'd be more satisfied at the end of 2 days. 1 day would suit me better.
In the past 24 hours, the rampaging firestorm has blackened Hunter Water Corporation land northeast of Williamtown Air Force Base, careered towards Grahamstown Dam, blackening private land, and today made its closest advance towards Madawi.
It'll run up beyond these houses if we can put a burn-in along there and try and take some of the weight off that.
Smoke from the blaze is visible up to 30 kilometres, with daylight dimmed substantially as the fire advances. Fire Controller Alan Hepplewhite says it's vital property owners reduce the risk around their homes.
The greatest assistance that landholders can give the firefighters is to start cleaning up around their homes and providing us a fairly safe perimeter immediately adjoining the home.
So far, no homes have been lost because of the Madawi fire. Gary Blair, NBN News. It may be school holidays, but classes in for more than a dozen youngsters keen to learn about driving a motor vehicle. Their teacher, budding racing driver and Go-Kart Go manager Wayne Russell, is giving the 8 to 14-year-olds a grounding he hopes will help them when they get behind the wheel for serious driving on the roads. Respect and attitude are two basics taking on a new meaning for the group as they put 4 wheels beneath them.
So we could teach them not to race, but how to drive. We just want to teach them coordination, respect for drivers, attitude on the track, and for later on in life. It's just a great learning curve.
The practical side of the course quickly shows just how much our motorists of the future have learnt from their preliminary advanced driver training. A smooth driving style soon becomes evident, and even though speed isn't the objective, the youngsters do travel around the course quicker as a result of their tidier behaviour. Mr Russell believes adults could find the course beneficial.
Just to teach people, once again, the basics. A lot of adults don't understand what a slide is, or on the road they've never got themselves into that situation, and if they get themselves into that situation, they can't get themselves out. This will teach them how to do that, how to correct, how to do things.
Even though the course has been offered to schools, it hasn't been adopted as a road safety education course.
Leaving my family behind me, not knowing what lay ahead, waving goodbye as I left them in tears, remembering all we'd said. I looked to the sky, I offered my prayers, I asked him for guidance and strength, but the simple beliefs of a simple man lay in his hands and on my head, my head. I gave everything that they wanted, but still they wanted more. We sweat and we toil, good men lost their lives, I don't think they knew what for. I sold them my heart, I sold them my soul, I gave everything I had, but they couldn't break my spirit, my dignity fought back, fight back. Can you hear me? Can you see? Don't you hear me? Don't you see?
A fresh wave of flames sprang upon firefighters at Fern Bay. Officers and machines turned in retreat. A dozer being used to flank the blaze with a fire break was pulled out.
The southerly wind came up and just threw it past where they were putting it in, and it just got away on us.
The fickle winds pushed the fire toward the Bayway Caravan Park. Firefighters set up to defend homes. Residents were marshalled for evacuation. The outbreak was taken on along the park's perimeter, and then in a stroke of luck the wind eased, slowing the flames. Firefighters are finding it's not enough just to put out the flames. They've now got to go through and dampen down areas to eliminate the risk of reignition.
And once it's blackened out, the theory is it shouldn't burn again.
Fires at Saltash, Williamtown, Anna Bay, Madawi and Fern Bay have been contained but continue to burn. Victorian firefighters, brought in at the height of the crisis earlier in the week, may soon be stood down.
Sunday morning we'll be starting to talk about the scaling down of the operation. The fellows that really stood the onslaught will hopefully be back with their families in Melbourne on Sunday.
Beneath the blanket of bushfire smoke hanging along the coast, surfers were greeted by 1 to 1.5 metre waves for the first day's competition in the Catho Classic. A feast of waves was served up for the junior and open heats early, and organisers didn't begrudge a mid-morning onshore wind change, realising it carried some relief to those doing it tough battling bushfires. The 15th Catho Classic is being surfed over 3 divisions, opens, over 28s and over 35s. Cadets and juniors managed to fight their way through the pack for a shot at tomorrow's quarterfinals. Among them Joshua Moore, Luke Wells, Daniel Frodsham and Rick Smith. Stalwart surfers Roger Clements, Phil Davies, Larry Forbes and Trevor Hignell have made it through to the semis. Surfing starts at 7 o'clock.
Today's soaring temperatures brought fresh outbreaks on the mid-north coast, with fires destroying a shed and a car at a hydroponics farm at Falford near Foster. It's believed the blaze broke out at the back of a caravan park, spreading on a 2-kilometre front towards the Foster-Tuncurry Road. Local residents work desperately to protect their property, hosing down vehicles and raking leaves. Firefighters from Taree, Nabiac and Foster are still trying to control the blaze.
With numbers expected to exceed last year's crowd of 80,000, what could be Australia's largest maritime extravaganza is headed for another spectacular success.
It's a natural marine amphitheatre, if you like, and although the water itself can be very hospitable, the foreshore is, as you can see, a fine place for spectators.
With the handover of a sponsor's cheque, plans for the upcoming regatta were announced. Dragon boat racing with teams of 21 rowers, the Young Endeavour straight from the Sydney to Hobart, and a laser pyrotechnics display are in the lineup of events to captivate regatta fans. They'll join sailing ships, naval divers and the HMAS Ovens, the Brewery Ski Racing Classic and the Australian Formula One powerboats in a tried and true program.
We've got 3 or 4 drivers in Australia who are as good as there are in the world. We're looking at very fierce competition, especially with this race, with all the top crews being eliminated in the first round. This round will be very, very fiercely competed.
Last year, the racing fraternity was rocked by the death of Gold Coast driver Chris Antes, killed while performing a simple manoeuvre at what drivers say was a moderate speed.
That's our first fatality we've had in Australia in Formula One powerboat racing, but it will make them think a bit harder on this particular circuit.
On the foreshore will be the traditional Food and Wine Festival. Celebrations begin later this month. Joanne Shoebridge, NBN News. The first firefighters to arrive at these Robert Street units watched helplessly as they burned. There were no hydrants close by. Eventually, a tanker from Dungog arrived with enough water to save the rest of the block. Under government legislation, all new townhouse complexes have to have a fire hydrant within 90 metres, but not so for older blocks. Mayor John Kilpatrick believes there could be many other units which also have inadequate fire protection.
It may well be that there are other blocks of units in Lake Macquarie, I guess indeed in any of your viewing area, that were approved under the old requirements that may not now have the best fire prevention service available.
Council files do not indicate which units have hydrants close by and which don't. Mayor Kilpatrick is asking people who are unsure to contact the council.
Anybody that is worried about their property, if they contact the council, then we have a fire control officer, Max Monkley, and he will come out and have a look at their property and give them advice as to what would be appropriate to make sure that they were totally safe.
David Lowe will be lacing up his boots for his 300th National League match. One of only a dozen or so players to reach the 3-ton landmark, David's 12-year career includes almost 75 first-grade goals for KB United, Marconi, Parramatta Eagles and now his home team.
It makes me feel old, really. No, I mean, it's a nice achievement. It doesn't change anything. I think it just shows you've probably been a little bit lucky with injuries through your career.
Newcastle is a rung ahead of Wollongong City on the NSL ladder, with both teams in the middle of the pack. But the gong goes into the match as the reigning champions in the Steel City Cup and one up in this series. Newcastle needs a convincing win to steal back the trophy. About 4,000 people are expected to cheer on the home side, among them David's wife and 7-month-old son Alex.
I'll let him have his choice what he wants to do. I'll probably throw the tennis racket or a golf club in his hand and see if he can make his dad some money.
The match kicks off at 7:30 at the Mitre 10 Stadium at Birmingham Gardens. Joanne Shoebridge, NBN News.
This time 4 years ago, Newcastle was recovering from the earthquake which killed 13 people and damaged much of the city. The rest of the country rallied, donating generously to the Lord Mayor's earthquake appeal. Now, $1.2 million in cash remains in the trust, with that figure expected to rise when loans are repaid. Plans have been underway for some time to make the money in the trust available to other areas hit by disaster.
There has been another tragedy, and that's sufficient reason for us to expedite the matter.
The bushfires that ravaged the state during the last 10 days have prompted Newcastle Council to speed up the legal process to free the residual earthquake appeal funds for use elsewhere. Few Hunter Valley properties were destroyed by fire, but the Lord Mayor says the money wouldn't necessarily be confined to the Hunter.
We envisage that it would be used Australia-wide, but once again that's something that the trustees are working on at the present time.
Late this afternoon, the Supreme Court determined that the trustees of the Lord Mayor's earthquake appeal were at liberty to transfer the residue of funds to another trust. The court said while the new trust need not operate exclusively in the Newcastle area, it must do so to a substantial extent, a decision welcomed by the Lord Mayor. Jane Anderson, NBN News.